I remember coming home and I was just crying on the couch. And my husband, he came home and he was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I can't do this anymore. Can I quit my job to follow my dreams?" And he said, "Give me 90 days." That very next day, I gave them my 90 days notice because life is not a rehearsal. It's showtime. You only have one life to live. So I didn't want to wake up years and years and years later saying, "Why didn't I at least try?"
My name is Elisa, and welcome back to Sunday Morning Juice. Today, I'm joined by Kyra Knox, an Emmy-Award winning director who understands the power of storytelling with a filmmaking approach that fosters a deep connection with the audience and the talent. Welcome to the show. A lot of people listening are sitting in a cubicle or a Zoom meeting right now, dreaming of a different medium. You left a full time job to pursue directing. You had to believe that there was something waiting on the other side. So, what was that belief like?
I came home and I was in a very passive aggressive environment. And this was around the time that Trump was first in office and my CEO was happy, right? And I remember coming home and I was just crying on the couch. And my husband, he came home and he was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I can't do this anymore. Can I quit my job to follow my dreams?" And he said, "Give me 90 days." And so I walked into my office that very next day and I gave them my 90 days notice because my thing was like, life is not a rehearsal. It's showtime. You only have one life to live. So I didn't want to wake up years and years and years later saying, "Why didn't I at least try?" I could easily get an office job anywhere else. So I took a leap of faith and I was 34 when I did that. And this year I'll be 42.
I saw someone the other day say, you can't add days to your life, but you can add life to your days. That's like exactly what I feel like you did.
It's true. I mean, yes, is filming stressful? Of course it is, right? It could be stressful, but I'd rather be a little stressed out doing what I love versus being stressed out and doing something that I loathe that is not giving me purpose. I would say like 95% of the time, I love what I do, and the other 5% is just because I'm dealing with fires at work.
Corporate discipline and creative discipline are not really the same. Those are like completely different muscles. How did you figure out how to translate the corporate discipline into creative discipline?
I will say that being in corporate helped me as a producer because I got my start as a producer first before I became a director. And that was like being an office manager, like the meetings and organize timelines, meeting deadlines, like all of those things helped me out. And also learning how to work with different personalities. But I will say what's different, especially as a freelancer, is that I have no 9 to 5, right? I have no one that's on my back that's saying, "Kyra, this needs to be done." This no, like I'm my own boss. So I have to have discipline. I have to make sure that I prioritize my day out and get my work done because I have no one else to hold me accountable. So I will say
True.
that's a huge difference.
No, it definitely is. I'm self employed now too. I went from being a software developer and then I started doing social media management and writing. And it took a moment for me to like get my footing in that self employed freelancer world.
Yeah, yeah. And it's even like stuff like, making sure that I'm also having time for myself because when you're a freelancer, there have been so many times that I'm up on my computer at 6 a.m. and I don't get off until 10, 11 o'clock at night. So one of the things that my husband and I did is that on Sundays, that's just our time for ourselves where I don't do meetings, don't answer emails, text messages, or anything because I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself too. And as freelancers, sometimes taking care of yourself can go to the wayside because you have so much work. And so that's another level of discipline that I had to learn too.
So you could have chosen narrative fiction where you write a script, you hire directors, and you control every aspect of the set, and you decided to do the exact opposite. What is it about documentary filmmaking specifically that made you say, this is the best way to use my voice?
I love telling the stories of the underdogs and underrepresented communities. When I first got my start, I was at a boutique production company, and we were doing docu series for this network called Watching to Know. And when I started out, they were like, "Kyra, can you cast for these docu series?" I had no idea how to cast anything, but I said okay. And so I looked at this type of stories that they were telling, and I was like, I don't see anyone that looks like me in these stories. And so I started looking for stories and people that are Black people and people of color to show positivity in their communities, and tell their interesting stories. And I got the bug. Being a documentary filmmaking maker, excuse me, has allowed me to create impact in my community and in my city. Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. That was a feature documentary about gun violence in the city of Philadelphia, where I challenge people to stop donating to the large nonprofits that come into our communities once a quarter, but donate to the smaller nonprofits that are boots on the ground every day doing the work. And since then, for example, Shoot Basketball's Not People have received so much funding and so many grants. Because of the film, and in the beginning they didn't receive any grants and any donations, right? Or like my latest documentary that just came out, The Hands That Shape Tomorrow, we filmed a pilot program that was funded by Vanguard Start by Kids, where they gave extra $500 unrestricted funds, tax free, in all of their early child care teachers' paychecks. And to hear the difference that that made, oh my God, it brought tears to my eyes. And now we're using that documentary to make a difference. And hopefully the policymakers will see that and say, our teachers deserve more money. Our teachers should not have to spend money out of their own pocket for their classrooms. And they should be able to live a great life. I've heard stories of teachers that struggle, and they are the people that are teaching our next generation of, policemen and nurses and teachers and X, Y, and Z. So I could go on and on and on and on.
That's okay. I can tell that like you're really passionate about it and it's making a difference. Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. I have to say that is an amazing title. It makes you want to listen immediately. And in the film, you're exploring gun violence, but from the lens of the community's effort to combat it. How did you decide on that specific angle?
Because that man came into my city and he said, bad
Mm-hmm.
things happen in Philadelphia. And if you know us Philadelphians, if you say something negative about us, we're going to take that statement and turn it into something powerful. And so I chose that title because it's provocative, right? People are going to say, what does this mean? And yes, there was gun violence in Philadelphia. It has gone down dramatically. But I was going to show the good stuff that happens in Philadelphia, the people that are boots on the ground, every day working with these kids to keep them off the street, and that's why I chose the title. And it worked. People watched it and it created an impact.
Totally. Over 300,000 households actually have seen the film. It's on Prime Video, and you won an Emmy for this film.
No,
What does that
I actually
validation?
Oh, I actually won an Emmy for another documentary. I
Oh,
won an Emmy. I won an Emmy for Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. I won so many awards, but the Emmy that I won it in was about. It was called Restless Ground: The Untold Story of Mount Olive, which was this cemetery in Delaware, where I didn't know that in Delaware, cemeteries were segregated until 1984. And I was born in 1984. And as they were developing Delaware, they would dig up black and brown graves and throw it in this one cemetery called Mount Olive. And it was this man named Bill Jones that started getting up every day with a lawnmower and started taking care of that cemetery, because when you walked in there, the tombstones were different ways. The ground was sucking in. They just threw our bodies in there. And because of Bill Jones, I mean, they have the Friends of Mount Olive. The state of Delaware has gone in, and now they've been using that documentary to restore Mount Olive back to its glory. So that's what I won the Emmy in.
That is so amazing. And how did you get aligned with that project?
So I will say the blessing that came from Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia, which was a passion project of mine, is now I get paid to tell impactful stories. So I was actually hired by 40 production company and Newcastle County, Delaware government to tell this story about Mount Olive.
That's amazing. And Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia was your debut documentary, correct?
Yeah, it was my. They always say it's not considered a directorial debut until you make your first feature. So that was my very first feature documentary. Started out as a passion project during COVID. I felt like we had something special. And so I told my friends, I said, let's hold off on let's hold off on filming. I want to see if I can get funding for this film because my friends were helping me with this for free. We ended up getting funding from Mark Mims, a Grammy winning producer. And then it also got into the hands of Allen Iverson, who he didn't give us any funding, but he gave us his name, which was very, very important. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
my directorial debut because it was my first feature film.
Okay. So you've premiered at American Black Film Festival. You've won at several festivals, at the Michaud Film Festival. You won an Emmy. When you walk into these rooms and you accept those awards, how do you process that visibility?
When I won the award at the Michaud Film Festival, I was in tears because it's so hard. I'm starting to tear up now. It's so hard for Black women filmmakers in the industry. A lot of men get our jobs, right? And so we have to work so much harder. And then when you add that I'm a Black woman on top of that, I mean, even think about Ava DuVernay, the Ava DuVernay still struggles out there. So it brought tears to my eyes to be recognized as a Black woman filmmaker in this industry because it's so hard out there for us. It's so hard for us to receive funding. It's so hard for us to receive recognition. And then on top of that, it was about a film about gun violence. It really touched my heart. Really touched my heart to be recognized too, especially in this. I'm sorry, no, I'm going off on a tangent, but especially
That's
when
okay.
I won the Emmy, telling a story about Black people and what was done to us with Mount Olive Cemetery, to win an Emmy in our current administration with, where they're trying to silence our voices, but yet I'm winning an Emmy for you not silencing my voice. That was a huge moment for me as well.
Yeah, it's very, very inspiring too. As someone, I definitely do want to make a film and direct a film someday myself. So it's really nice to like hear your story and hear your strength and how you've been able to leave your job. And, I feel like in the industry there could be like pressure if like you didn't go to film school. And sometimes that kind of can cause like imposter syndrome and stuff like that, but you have so much conviction, and I just really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you.
And I'll be honest, I do suffer from imposter syndrome. It's getting better day by day because I didn't go to film school. And when I quit my job to follow my dreams, a lot of people were negative about it. We had a lot of naysayers. A lot of people saying to my husband, are you going to let her quit her job? And he's all like, that's my wife. I'm going to let her do whatever she wants to do. So I'm blessed that I had such a supportive husband that also kept the blinders on with me and said, screw the naysayers. We're going to do what we going to do over here. But yeah, it was tough. And it is tough at times for me because I'm surrounded by people that's been in this industry for 10 plus years, went to these prestigious film schools. And then here I come. I only took a $70 course at Philly Cam. Shout out to Philly Cam. And here I am in the same circles, right? I'm doing it. And so I literally had to do an Issa Rae moment and look myself in the mirror on my first huge shoot and say, I belong here. I belong here, and had to like really pump myself up. But it's tough. It's tough. I still deal with imposter syndrome sometimes.
So we talked about the pivot to get into the industry, but let's talk about the pivot required to stay in the industry. When you made your first project that really really worked, I'm sure there was a lot of pressure to repeat that format. How do you protect your creative intuition now that there's an expectation on the table?
I don't do a project that I don't believe in at all. There have been times that there have been projects brought to me, but they didn't align with my values. And so I was like, no, because all money ain't good money, okay? So I think that's why Mount Olive and The Hands That Shake Tomorrow and all these other films, I think the reason why, I guess you could say, I wouldn't say that they're just as great. I would say they're just as impactful because I really believed in the subject, and so I put my whole heart into it. And so that's something that I do. I just, does it align with what I value? Does it align with my beliefs? Will it make a difference? Will it create impact? Then count me in.
When people look back at the archive that is your career decades from now, what is the through line you want them to see?
That I care. That I'm not in the business to exploit people. I'm in the business to amplify their stories. People that have been in my documentaries still I still talk to them because I wear my heart on my sleeve. I actually really care. When it came to Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia, I did not expect all of these awards. I did not expect any of this recognition. I just wanted to make a difference in my community. And I will say that one of the biggest compliments that I've been receiving lately is that, Kyra, you don't even act like you want an Emmy. I'm like, why would I? I'm just Kyra. I'm just me, And I'm gonna keep doing the work because my pop, my grandfather was president of Concerned Black Men here in Philadelphia, and he created an impact in our community. And the way that I continue his legacy is just through the power of film, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. And that's what I pray that I'm recognized for.
1000%. Kyra, it was such a pleasure to talk to you and have you on for Women's History Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was such an honor.
Yeah.